Greetings, one and all, once again, back to Exploring Arda, a Tolkien-centered podcast where I'm your host, Jackson, and I'll be going through a bunch of Tolkien's works other than Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So, this is a kind of a continuation of Beren and Lúthien. The first three episodes here, basically I read from the Silmarillion itself, so basically from that story. But since it mentions the Lay of Leithian quite a bit in that story, we are actually going to be kind of restarting the story with this version coming from the book, this Beren and Lúthien book. We will be reading the Lay of Leithian, basically in a few parts here because I'm not the best at reading poetry. It is very fun. I've read the Adventures of Tom Bombadil, which was very fun, so that's a big assortment of poems as well. But I'll be basically reading through Beren and Lúthien with the Lay of Leithian now. So it'll be another few episodes or so, and it's definitely like a different cadence, I guess you could say, because it is in poetry form, but that's what we'll be doing. So if you want to check out the original episodes that I had for this, definitely check it out because I've made some playlists and whatnot, so there will be a Beren and Lúthien playlist for you guys. But I think with that introduction and rambling kind of out of the way, we'll begin the story here of Beren and Lúthien, but we'll be reading the Lay of Leithian. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. Probably not, but there it is, Lay of Leithian. And here we go. But yeah, Lay of Leithian, that's basically what we'll be reading from. Here we go with the story. Alright. Narrative in the Lay of Leithian to its termination. That's basically what it says. Hounds there were in Valinor, with silver collars. Hart and boar, the fox and hare, and nimble roe, there in the forest green did go. Arome was the lord divine of all those woods. The pointed wine went in his halls, and hunting song, the gnomes anew have named him long. Tavros, the god whose horns did blow over the mountains long ago. Who alone of gods have loved the world before the banners were unfurled. Of moon and sun, and shod with gold, were his great houses. Hounds untold, baying in woods beyond the west, of race immortal he possessed. Grey and limber, black and strong, white with linen, with silken coats and long, brown and brindled, swift and true as arrow from a bow of yew. Their voices like the deep-toned bells that ring in Valimar's citadels. Their eyes like living jewels, their teeth like real bone, as sword from sheath. They flashed and fled from leash to scent for Tavros' joy and merriment. In Tavros' friths and pastures green had Huan once a young whelp been. He grew the swiftest of the swift, and Arome gave him as a gift, to Celegorm, who loved to follow the great god's horn over hill and hollow. Alone of hounds of the land of light, of sons of Feanor took to flight, and came into the north. He stayed beside his master every raid, and every foray wild he shared, and into mortal battle dared. Often he saved his gnomish lord from orc and wolf and leaping sword. A wolfhound, tireless, grey and fierce, he grew, his gleaming eyes would pierce all shadows and all mist. The scent moons old he found through fent and bend. Through rustling leaves and dusty sand, all paths of wide Beleriand he knew, and wolves he loved. Wow, but wolves he loved them best. He loved to find their throats and rest, their snarling lives and evil breath. The packs of Thu him feared as death. No wizardry, nor spell, nor dart, no fang, nor venom's devil's art could brew from harmed him, for his weird was woven, yet he little feared that fate decreed and known to all, before the mightiest he should fall, before the mightiest wolf alone that ever was whelped in cave of stone. And actually, before we go back into it, there is a few imageries, paintings of the good old Alan Lee here, so this is very, very cool. This is basically kind of like Curfin and Celegorm, basically just kind of like saying that they pretty much have Huan to protect them, no matter where they go. So these paintings are always really cool to look at. But continue on with the story here. Hark afar in Nargothrond, far over Syrian and beyond, there are dim cries and horns blowing, and barking hounds through the trees going. The hunt is up, the woods are stirred. Who rise today? Ye none have heard that Caligorm and Curfen have loosed their dogs. With merry din they mounted ere the sun arose, and took their spears and took their bows. The wolves of Thu of late have dared, both far and wide their eyes have glared. By night across the roaring stream of Narog doth their master dream, perchance of plots and counsels deep, of secrets that the elf lords keep, of movements in the gnomish realm, and errands under beech and elm. Curfen spake, Good brother mine, I like it not, what dark design doth this portend? These evil things we swift must end their wanderings, and more 'twould please my heart full well to hunt a while and to wolves to fell. And then he leaned and whispered low that Orodrith was a dullard slow. Long time it was since the king had gone, and rumour of tidings came there none. At least thy profit it would be to know whether dead he is or free, to gather thy men in thy array. I go to hunt, then thou wilt say, and men will think that Narog's good ever thou didst, but in the wood things may be learned, and if by grace, by some blind fortune he retrace his footsteps mad, and if he bear a Silmaril, I need declare no more in words, but one by right is thine and ours, the jewel of light. Another may be won, a throne, the eldest blood our house doth own. Caligorm listened, naught he said, but forth a mighty host he led, and Huan leaped at the glad sounds, the chief and captain of his hounds. 3 days they ride by holt and hill, the wolves of Thu to hunt and kill, and many a head and fell of grey they take, and many drive away, till nigh to the borders in the west of Doriath a while they rest. There were dim cries and horns blowing, and barking dogs through the woods going. The hunt was up, the woods were stirred, and one there fled like a startled bird, and fear was in her dancing feet. She knew not who the woods did beat. Far from her home, for wandered and pale, she flitted ghost-like through the vale. Ever her heart bade her up and on, but her limbs were worn, her eyes were wan. The eyes of Huan saw a shade wavering, darting down a glade, like a mist of evening snared by day, and hasting fearfully away. He bayed and sprang with sinewy limb to chase the shy thing strange and dim. On terror's wings, like a butterfly pursued by a sweeping bird on high, she fluttered hither, darted there, now poised, now flying through the air, in vain. At last against a tree she leaned and panted, up leaped he. No word of magic gasped with woe, no elvish mystery she did know, or had entwined in a raiment dark, availed against that hunter stark, whose old immortal race and kind no spells could ever turn or bind. Huan alone that she ever met, she never in enchantment set, nor bound with spells, but loveliness and gentle voice and pale distress, and eyes like starlight dimmed with tears, tamed him that death nor monsters feared. Lightly he lifted her, light he bore his trembled burden. Never before had Caligorm beheld such prey. What hast thou brought, good Huan, say? Dark elvish maid, or wraith, or fay? Not such to hunt we came today. 'Tis Lúthien of Doriath, the maiden spake, a wandering path far from the wood elves' sunny glades. She sadly whines where courage fades and hope grows faint. And as she spoke, down she let slip her shadowy cloak, and there she stood in silver and white. Her starry jewels twinkled bright in the risen sun like morning dew. The lily's gold on mantle blue gleamed and glistened. Who could gaze on that fair face without amaze? Long did Curfen look and stare, the perfume of her flower-twined hair, her lissom limbs, her elvish face, smote to his heart, and in that place, enchained he stood. O maiden royal, O lady fair, wherefore in toil and lonely journey dost thou go? What tidings dread of war and woe in Doriath have betid? Come tell, what for For fortune thee hath guided well. Friends thou hast found, said Caligorm, and gazed upon her elvish form. And in his heart, wow, this is okay. In his heart, him thought her tale unsaid. He knew in part, but not she read, of guile upon his smiling face. Who are ye then, the lordly chase, that follow in this perilous wood? She asked, and answered, an answer seeming good they gave. Thy servants, lady sweet, lords of Nargothrond, thee greet, and beg that thou wouldst with them go back to their hills, forgetting woe, a season seeking hope and rest. And now to hear thy tale were best. I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. So yeah, like I said, poetry is definitely not my strong suit. Because sometimes like the phrasing and the wordage is like mixed, so it's like it definitely does have like that old English feel, kind of, in a way. But other than that, yeah, definitely apologize for my stumbling and whatnot. This basically starts off with Caligorm and Curufin, which is very interesting because, you know, in the tale of Beren and Lúthien of the Silmarillion version, you know, you start off with Beren basically finding Lúthien in the woods and becoming enamored by her, which, you know, makes sense too. But also, this happens again, basically with, I think it's Curufin. Yeah, long did Curufin look and stare. So basically, he becomes enamored by her right away as well. Pretty much as Beren did as well. But I mean, at least Beren is like a decent guy. Curufin is not. But yeah, basically they find her in the woods, and they basically say, hey, like, why are you in the woods? And that's why Lúthien comes up and says, okay, let me tell you guys the story. She tells them who she is, like, straight up. So, I mean, she just says, Lúthien of Doriath, she says. So she has basically nothing to hide there, so. And now, pretty much where they're at now is she's telling the story of her and Beren. So that's kind of where we're at in the story. So I definitely apologize for rambling, but we're going to try to finish it off here. These episodes will be short, but so it's such as the poetry with stuff. So here we go again with the story. So Lúthien tells of Beren's deeds in northern lands, how fate him leads to Doriath of Thingol's ire, the dreadful errand that her sire decreed for Beren. Sign nor word the brothers gave that aught they heard that touched them near. Of her escape in the marvellous mantle she did shape. She lightly tells, but words her fail, recalling sunlight in the vale, moonlight, starlight, and Doriath, ere Beren took the perilous path. Need too, my lords, there is haste, no time in ease and rest to waste. For days are gone now since the Queen Melian, whose heart hath fashion keen, looking afar, me said in fear that Beren lived in bondage drear. The Lord of Wolves hath prisons dark, chains and enchantments cruel and stark. And there entrapped and languishing doth Beren lie, if dire thing hath not brought death or wish for death, then gasping woe bereft her breath. To Caligorm said Curufin, apart and low, now news we win of Felagund, and now we know wherefore Thu's creatures prowling go. And other whispered counsels spake, and showed to him that what answer he should make. Lady, said Caligorm, thou seest we go a-hunting roaming beast. And though our host is great and bold, 'tis ill prepared the wizards hold an island fortress to assault. Deem not our hearts and wills at fault. Lo, here our chase we now forsake, and home our swiftest road we take. Counsel and aid there to devise for Beren that in anguish lies. To Nargoth they with them bore Lúthien, whose heart misgave her sore. Delay she feared, each moment pressed upon her spirit, yet she guessed they rode not as swiftly as they might. Ahead leaped Huan day and night, and ever looking back his thought was troubled, what his master sought, and why he rode not like the fire, why Curufin looked with hot desire on Lúthien. He pondered deep, and felt some evil shadow creep, of ancient curse over elfiness. His heart was torn for the distress of Beren bold, and Lúthien dear, and Felagund who knew no fear. In Nargothrond the torches flared, and feast of music was prepared. Lúthien feasted not, but wept. Her ways were trammelled, closely kept, she might not fly. Her magic cloak was hidden, and no prayer she spoke was heeded, nor did answer find her eager questions. Out of mind, it seemed, were those afar from pined and anguished, and in dungeons blind, in prison and in misery. Too late she knew their treachery. It was not hid in Nargothrond that Feanor's sons her held in bond, who Beren needed not, and who had little cause to rest from Thu, the king they loved not, in whose quest old vows of hatred in their breast had aroused from sleep. Orodreth knew the purpose dark they would pursue. King Felagund to leave to die, and with King Thingol's blood ally, the house of Feanor by force or treaty. But to stay their course he had no power, for all their folk the brothers had yet beneath their yoke. And all yet listened to their word, Orodreth's counsel no man heard. Their shame they crushed, and would not heed the tale of Felagund's dire need. At Lúthien's feet there day by day, and at night beside her couch would stay, Huan, the hound of Nargothrond, and words she spoke to him soft and found. O Huan, Huan, swiftest hound, that ever ran on mortal ground, what evil doth thy lords possess, to heed no tears nor my distress? Once Bara here, all men above, good hounds did cherish and did love. Once Beren in the friendless north, when outlaw wild he wandered forth, had friends unfailing among things with fur and fell and feathered wings, and among the spirits that in stone and mountain old and waste alone still dwell, but now nor elf nor man, none save the child of Melian, remembers him whom Morgoth fought, and never to thraldom base was brought. Not said Huan, but Curufin thereafter never near might win to Lúthien, nor touch that maid, but shrank from Huan's fangs afraid. Then on a night, when autumn damp was swathed with the glimmering lamp of the wan moon and fitful stars, were flying seen between the bars of racing cloud, when winter's horn already wound in trees forlorn. Lo, Huan was gone. Then Lúthien lay, fearing new wrong, till just ere day, when all is dead and breathless still, and shapeless fears the sleepless fill. A shadow came along the wall, then something let there softly fall, her magic cloak beside her couch. Trembling she saw the great hound crouch. Beside her, heard a deep voice swell, as from a tower afar slow bell. Thus Huan spake, who never before had uttered words, but twice more did speak in elven tongue again. Lady beloved, whom all men, whom elfiness, and whom all things, with fur and fell and feathered wings, should serve and love, arise away, put on thy cloak, before the day comes over Nargothrond, we fly to northern perils, thou and I. And ere he ceased, he counsel wrought, for achievement of the thing they sought. There Lúthien listened in amaze, and softly on Huan did she gaze. Her arms about his neck she cast, in friendship that to death should last. So, we're actually gonna do a little, well, not even a break. That's pretty much the end of the episode here. Like I said, it's very short stuff. This will basically be a very quick series for you guys, especially just because I'm not used to poetry, like I said. But basically, finishing that story off is that Huan sees the goodness of Lúthien's heart, and also the passion that she has for Beren. We don't actually get a proper introduction to Beren at all in this introduction, except for Lúthien saying, hey, I'm after looking for Beren, and he's off probably somewhere. I'm basically in Thu's realm, and if you guys remember, Thu is actually Sauron in the Silmarillion, and he's in Tol in Garhoth, the Isle of Werewolves. So basically, it's when the story pretty much picks up when Beren is captured in that isle, in the Isle of Werewolves. And I think I remember last time I said that basically from Tol in Garhoth and on is like an incredible story, and that makes sense because that's where the Lay of Leithian pretty much picks up on. So that's pretty crazy. This one, actually, the Lay of Leithian, I have not read aloud, so definitely apologize for that. But Huan basically decides, hey, I'm going to stay with Lúthien and not with Celeborn and Curufin, because he can see, basically Huan sees the treachery of Curufin, and he wants to basically like take Lúthien for his own, but not, I would say not in a consensual way. Lúthien does not want him, so she's only after Beren. So you can kind of see the darkness of Curufin's heart, and Huan even sees it. But I suppose that makes sense because Huan is from Valinor, so basically the Hound of Valinor, part of the divine nature of all that in the Valar. But yeah, that's kind of like what happens in this one. Not a whole lot of action or whatever, but I'm assuming the next part, it's the allies of Felagund and Beren in the Isle of Werewolves with Sauron and whatnot. But yeah, really cool stuff. Definitely let me know what your guys' favorite part of Beren and Lúthien is. If you guys are listening and have read the story or listened to the story, maybe. But yeah, this is kind of like what the tempo kind of will be with Beren and Lúthien. I'll try to get a little bit better with reading poetry because it's a little tricky sometimes. But the fantastical and just creativity of Tolkien's magic is incredible. And just the way that he introduces Lúthien in both of the stories is pretty much the same. It's just everyone's just awestruck with her beauty and power. And that's kind of like a reoccurring theme both in the Silmarillion story and the Lay of Leithian. But with all that rambling and out of the way, just stay tuned for another episode, and may the light of Elbereth be with you all. Farewell.